Someone made a video that was incredibly critical.
I think it's fair to call it a hate video. I haven't watched it because I don't want images in my head because it's upsetting. Why the vitriol? It kept me up at night.
It kept me up at night.
No, it made me sad. I was sad.
Whoa.
I was sad. So it hurt my feelings is the truth.
It was a canceled Charlie video, and we shot a podcast on it a little bit ago, and then we didn't share it because the person had said that they were considering making a second one. If you're watching this, Michelle, reach out.
Hey, that's me. I made a video calling out one of the guys from Charisma on Command, Charlie Houpert, because I didn't think his online course about charisma was legit. There are some things I didn't mention in the other video, just in case this happened. We can get to the extra material later. For now, since Charlie's responded, we'll start by addressing some of his points.
You don't have a PhD in charisma. Why should I buy Charisma University, Charlie?
Well, first off, I would say for anybody that wants a course that is steeped in academic citations, has any academic citations, this really isn't for you. That's not what I was interested in when I wanted to learn charisma.
I understand that to mean science and studies and research weren't what you wanted when you first started learning how best to improve your social life. He says, I started studying the science of charisma.
That's not what I was interested in when I wanted to learn charisma.
I'm not interested in the theory of charisma. I care about stuff that actually works.
And so that's why we don't use studies.
That I care about stuff that actually works bit is from a promo that's on the front page of your site. But how do you know this stuff actually works if you don't trust science?
The one actual study from Harvard that we do cite ended up being debunked, and it started to lead us down the road of a lot of social studies can't be trusted.
Yeah.
I can understand not trusting studies that have been disproven. That's entirely logical. It makes sense to want science to be scientific and thorough, but disregarding all of social sciences just to push your own unproven, anecdotal, quote-unquote research.
This course doesn't have citations from peer-reviewed papers. I ran little mini experiments in my own life.
That just makes you a silly Billy. You have experienced how your own business model, copying someone else who's being charismatic, didn't work for you.
You had this friend Austin who was ridiculously charismatic, and I would copy things that he did, and everything that I copied didn't make an impact on my life.
With his business model, people are still copying an assumedly charismatic person's actions. Kinda weird for someone who isn't an expert to sell a course on how to be a charisma expert. You talked about appeal to authority being a classic logical fallacy.
The appeal to authority is a classic logical fallacy.
That means claiming that something must be true because it's believed by someone who is said to be an authority on the subject. That's something you've taken advantage of before.
Honestly, I don't really know what I'm getting into. I actually wouldn't be interested in convincing anyone that I'm an expert.
If you truly believe that and you value honesty over money from clickbait, then change this title because it's misleading. You, not an expert,
I don't care to die on the hill of being a charisma expert.
are selling a course worth $600.
Would recommend checking out our program, Charisma University. This course doesn't have citations from peer-reviewed papers.
No formal training behind it.
You don't have a PhD in charisma.
Why are you an expert?
And since your reason for not wanting to look at the science was...
We gave a speech at Yale. Afterwards, the professor said, hey, I thought you guys did a great job, but just so you know,
That study was disproven.
the same thing was occurring all over social sciences.
That's how science works. You just keep disproving stuff until you find something that holds up to testing, which you don't seem to have done because you can't prove to me that any of your stuff works. I'm not sure I'd feel happy if I'd thrown that much money at my problem to find out the expert who came up with the solution didn't even believe any science was worth listening to because 2 studies he looked at were debunked. If you want something that hasn't been debunked yet, despite years and years of research, talk about cognitive behavioral therapy, which does have proven studies and tons of research behind it. You know, like real science. Cognitive behavioral therapy has been used to treat a wide range of disorders. CBT is the most researched form of psychotherapy. As of August 6, 2019, a review of PubMed showed 86,000 articles about CBT. There are 21,000 review articles and 17,000 labeled as clinical trials. That's on this one site alone. Source, Google Scholar, 2.9 million sources. That doesn't mean that 100% of these studies are flawless and replicable, but CBT itself is solid because of how much scientific research has been put into proving and disproving it.
To me, proof is from what works in the world. The measure of truth is effectiveness.
I agree with that, completely. However, there's still no concrete proof that your techniques work on anyone.
Framework for making an amazing first impression on anyone every time.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed to give you more confidence and charisma in just 30 days.
Despite you explicitly claiming it's a concrete solution to social awkwardness.
So in this video, you're going to learn concrete steps. I'm going to get to some concrete actions. So now some concrete advice on how to implement these 3 tips.
It doesn't make sense to say that's just a buzzword or a marketing term when much of your audience likely is looking for a concrete solution to a lifelong problem, and then your product doesn't deliver. Even if it does, how can you tell if it actually works or if it's just the placebo effect? If people are giving someone $600 because they want a product to work, they'll read into it as working. That much has been proven with studies. The cost could be the only reason people think it's effective. This article says more expensive placebos bring more relief. Investigators had 82 men and women rate pain caused by electric shocks applied to their wrist before and after taking a pill. Half the participants had read that the pill, described as a newly approved prescription pain reliever, was regularly priced at $2.50 per dose. The other half read it was discounted to 10 cents. 85% of those using the expensive pills reported significant pain relief, compared with 61% on the cheaper pills. But it wasn't just one of those pills that caused the placebo effect. Both were dummy pills. So they didn't actually work better. They didn't work at all. People just thought they worked because they saw the price tag and equated worth with effectiveness. I ask you again, how are these things scientifically backed and proven when you don't believe in using studies anymore? Maybe this quote should be on the front page of your site instead of in the middle of a 2-hour podcast on your second channel. Here, I'll even do all the work for you and make a banner. So are you lying in the podcast for some reason and you do use studies and cite sources and all of this is 100% guaranteed and proven to be successful? Or are you defrauding your customers and charging them $600 for something that won't work beyond placebo?
Maybe I don't drink socially, but have a drink at a bar on a date. I don't know.
Yeah, no,
how is that not a thesis?
In the last video, I pointed out verbatim reasons why drinking alcohol is cheating at life from Charlie's point of view. Not feeling fun? Drink. Feel uncomfortable out? Drink. Trouble being funny? Drink. Too nervous to go for a kiss? Grab another. He meets some girls who have had some drinks. He talks to one of them, and they go back to her place, and she has more drinks. You can tell it's just her who has drinks, because this guy is like, hey, did you have drinks? And Charlie's like, no, I did not. Ben says I somehow misinterpreted Charlie's blog.
But when you come in with the lens of Charlie Houpert is evil, somehow that gets interpreted to be he's going out and not drinking and pumping people full of drinks, which isn't in the content.
Well, it isn't anymore. You deleted it from your site. It would be really convenient for you if I misinterpreted this comment on this deleted blog post, but it seems clear to me. And these aren't dates. You met these girls for the first time at a bar to take them home. If you think the only reason anyone has alcohol is to calm their nerves and lower their inhibitions and cheat at life,
say don't drink socially because it's not good for you and it's cheating and you're not going to develop confidence,
and you don't drink for these reasons, why would you have any motivation to do it? And you believe even those with no trace of chemical dependency will become slaves to alcohol. Why even chance it? Anyway, so they go back to this girl's place, she has more drinks, and then and then he says, sorry guys, I can't write more, my mom reads this blog. But why would your mom not want to read about having a nice, confident conversation and drinks with someone? I mean, her drinks, she's drinking, she's the one who is drinking and you are not. Oh, it's not a conversation. What they did rhymes with T-Rex. Bruh. That's epic. They talk about his career, and the girl suddenly has an issue with the fact that his business relies on him manipulating people. And she says not to, quote, do his business around her, which, now that I think about it, is a very accurate expression for what he does. She says, I want you to be you. Don't use your tricks on me. And he ends the post saying, I'm not just telling you what I think you want to hear. The way I am, confident, outgoing, social, whatever. It's not something I turn on and off. It's who I am. It's not something I turn on and off. It's not something I turn on and off. Okay, bro, I guess your more hardcore fans in my comments are right, and I've misinterpreted your entire business model with my with my stupid tiny woman brain. He changes the subject after he talks about the alcohol issue. He says,
one of the things that I do believe in my core is you cannot jump to conclusions without consulting the person.
Okay, so I'm consulting you to explain this example on your blog. Not gonna draw any conclusions from this. I would like to hear your reasoning as to why you thought it was worth posting and why you took it down only after I uploaded my video. He says, I really wanted this girl to loosen up in the bedroom. It was so obvious that if she could just stop being judgmental about sex and expose herself to new things, it'd massively improve her life and our relationship. So I'd prod. I'd cajole and persuade, play good cop, bad cop, carrot stick, encourage scare, every angle I could to persuade her to act how I thought she should. When it doesn't work, he says, it is impossible, masochistic, and retarded to try to change other people. They may amend aspects of their behavior, but their values are not gonna change for you. But I'm not gonna hound her. Oh, gotcha. You're not hounding her only because she didn't change, not because it would be an awful thing to do. Hang on, let's reframe that. So the reason you don't manipulate someone into having the kind of sex they're uncomfortable with anymore is because it didn't work. Yeah, that's not what's retarded here. You do acknowledge that what she does isn't your choice, but I didn't see anything acknowledging how manipulative it is to, what was the word you used? Tried to scare your romantic partner into having your preferred kind of sex. Which is funny, because this blog post was on Charisma on Command. That's your most recent site. And on an older site, you have a post that says, do not pressure anyone to do anything they don't want to do. No means no. But in that same post, you say, first off, girls only say we aren't having sex to guys they're considering having sex with. If she truly had zero intention of ever sleeping with you, she'd walk away, ignore you, and go home alone. Easier and less messy than talking about it. She just talked about it. She just told you. In a sense, the we aren't having sex statement is a test. Don't try and force some sort of verbal contract. Don't bother addressing the literal words. You just said, if someone says no, you gotta respect that. But I guess if they say no to you, they probably don't mean it. This person just said, we're not doing this thing. There's a negative in there. That means no. What do you think consent is? You completely glossed over any and all mentions that your course is a scam. So I'm guessing you probably don't want people to see that you've run a few other courses before this one, since you deleted them from your site. One of them was called Date Your Dream Girl. It matches all the signs of a scam like we saw in the last video. And if you look at a list of scams on Wikipedia, you find one called a get-rich-quick scheme. They say the route to success is by following secret formulas that no one else knows about. Rich, in this case, with women in months to a year, secret formulas, pressuring tactics to encourage the victim to sign up quickly. They'll claim there's only a certain number of copies of a CD left, or special discount prices that are only available for a short amount of time. Schemes of this nature will often employ the tactic of displaying testimonials from previous users that have no proof. Fortunately, this one didn't assert that he put in scientific research or used studies, just that he gets all the ladies. I had second thoughts about backing these up because they seem so inconsequential. I thought if he deleted anything, it'd be Kickass Academy, which I think this commenter would be interested to see you address. I touched on this in the last video.
And I began sharing dating tips on different forums, with my new business being named Kickass Academy, which I thought was the coolest name ever.
There are a ton of saved links for this one. He talks about how to pick up girls, how to get girls to like you, how you shouldn't think about it like you're getting girls to like you, even though that's what he's teaching you to do. Incidentally, I found a post where he talks about how one time he and Ben did drills of some kind.
It's kinda gay.
It's not gay, come on.
He's talking about when he was learning how to pick up girls, and he says, I'd point at Ben out of nowhere and say, you can't look at me like that and not say hi. To which he'd respond, you're trouble. My mom warned me about girls like you. They only have one thing on their mind. And we'd play back and forth, drilling strong conversational habits until they were reflex. We spent hours building those habits.
I don't know, man. Seems kinda gay to me.
This post, called Embarrassment is a Bullshit Emotion, explains a lot. We want the whole damn world to think we're great. Do we? Okay. I mean, that might just be a you thing. I mean, it could just be a little narcissist thing, you know. I don't know. We chuck whatever it is that jeopardizes their respect for us, so they keep on loving us, keep on telling us we're great. We work hard to maintain their esteem. We conform, we deny, and we lie if necessary. Again, maybe another you thing. You already clarified that everything you write is based on your own experience and not science, so you lie when you're embarrassed, huh? You don't face up to it like a mature adult. That puts your podcast into perspective. Sometimes embarrassment is an outright denial of reality, like when a gay man refuses to accept he wants to bone other men. Okay. Other times, it's an insane attempt to control the perceptions of strangers, like when that same man marries a woman, to escape the judgment of his community. Is this a you thing? Is there something you're not telling us? I mean, it's okay. Nothing you do and nothing you are is worthy of shame. Man, you love sweeping generalizations. If you're living right by your values, who cares what anyone else thinks? Let's look at his values here. Someone who believes so strongly in their values and doesn't listen to fair criticism, haters, probably won't change too much over the years, right? There's this one post about learning how to kiss a girl. Yep, his 90% thing is still there.
Go 90% of the way and then wait is still tried and true.
Charisma expert himself still agrees with that bit. I know Charlie has said before he doesn't really trust science, so I looked at where he got the 90% thing, and I found this.
The secret to a kiss is to go 90% of the way and then hold.
Yeah, anyway, there's also the belief that calling someone a sexual predator is a good pickup line. And you should read into everything like the other person is hitting on you, especially if they aren't. Again, Mr. Charisma Expert still believes in that.
I'll often start conversation by accusing a woman of staring at me or hitting on me. And if I'm wearing suspenders and she snaps them, that makes it even easier for me to, just lean into her and tease her for being such a sexual predator.
The "you're hitting on me" frame will make her much more comfortable than if you just touched her while telling her how hot she is. That would come off desperate and creepy 90% of the time. Speaking of touching people and telling them they're hot and it coming off as desperate and creepy 90% of the time.
Hey, sorry, this is completely out of the blue. You are stunning.
I wasn't trying to take this interaction out of context, but no one's gonna have the full context if you've deleted the video. So, just in case anyone wants the whole thing, I've had it uploaded, link is in the description, because it's deleted from Charlie's site, despite him thinking he did nothing wrong in it.
In the video is she turns around and laughs, and we talk, and she laughs again, and it goes well. And that's why I put the video on the internet. It makes me look like a comfortable, easy person to talk to and showing that you can have a positive interaction in the street.
This is the extra 5 or so seconds of context everyone was missing.
and I saw you walking out, I'd be kicking myself. I didn't say anything. What's up?
Hi.
I'm Charlie.
I don't know what Charlie cut out for that edit, or maybe there was just a problem with the camera, but I thought those blips looked awkward aesthetically, so I didn't include that bit. She's still laughing and giggling nervously throughout the footage I showed, so I didn't think an extra 5 seconds was gonna give anyone more context. Charlie does some commentary for a minute, so we'll cut to the end.
And that's it. So now what I want to do is jump into a different video clip where we can talk about what goes on sort of in the middle of an interaction. How do you work on setting up that second date?
Charlie, you stopped the clip here. So the context we don't have is whether or not you actually got her number. When you're selling this technique is guaranteeing it'll get you a number, because you edited out the ending. You didn't follow up on your podcast that you met up with her afterwards for that second date, and most importantly, you didn't acknowledge any possibility that she could have been uncomfortable, or that you don't do stuff like that anymore, or that you're not a pickup artist. What you did say was,
This is the one that makes me go, this person hates me, just hates me. If anybody sees any of the original material and doesn't like me, I would argue that that's absolutely you're right. But nobody had any issue with any of the original stuff. It's only when it's clipped and edited in a certain way that it is so upsetting.
okay, so just because no one else had an issue with it, and I do, and I only edited out 5 seconds of context, and you implied that the interaction was successful when we really have no idea, that's grounds for dismissing my concern, and instead just being really upset that I raised an issue. Back to Kickass Academy. It promotes a book called Kickassery, a guide to picking up girls. But then Charlie rebranded it to the anti-pickup line, which is totally not about picking up girls, even though it's the exact same thing with a different title. I want you to try this. Wave like an what? Wave like an adorably obnoxious child? Lock your arm out toward the horizon. Smile huge, and shake your hand left to right really quickly, like a 5-year-old. That's why I named it the 5-year-old hello. If they don't wave back, you can even yell, hey, like this. Wave back. Once they wave, smile and walk up and give them a big hug. I'll say something like, God, that took you way too long, you're awful at that. Then I'll playfully tease her about breaking up or divorcing her. What are you? A child? Is this some kind of pick up a girl while role-playing as a 5-year-old challenge? If she waves back right away, I like to give her a hug. Then I might tell her I love her and playfully marry her. I mean, yeah. That's what a 5-year-old would do if a pretty girl waved at them. I've noticed he occasionally makes, like, self-infantilizing comments, I guess to try to make himself sound vulnerable and harmless and cute, and like he didn't try to coerce his ex-girlfriend into having a certain kind of T-Rex with him. There's this other deleted blog post that I've backed up where Charlie meets this girl and he wants to impress her, and he's talking about how he used to be really shy, and she's like, I don't believe you. And he's like, yeah, it's true. If I met you back when I was shy, I'd have to ask you to please leave so I wouldn't pee myself by accident. And she's like, aw, well, please don't do that. And he's like, I'll try my best, but I promise nothing. Then of course there's him waving like a 5-year-old. In another post, Charlie meets this one girl at a club, and he's like, you know, you have such a genuine smile. It makes you look like a first grade teacher. I feel like I just want you to read me a picture book. He says, when you remove the filter, what you say will rarely be brilliant. Okay, fair enough. And you could argue that this is him getting in touch with his inner child, but he says the reason for waving like that, like a 5-year-old, is every person in the room will be more interested in speaking with you after seeing you wave frantically at strangers. Pretty neat. Yup. Pretty neat there, sport. That sure is some quality advice worth actual money.
You put a photo up of a woman that you claim you gave roses to. Upon Google searching that face, this person's opinion is that the Brazilian woman did not come up, but a Turkish model came up.
A similar, but not that photo, right?
Charlie at least acknowledges the Roses girl. I was curious if this guy even actually met this girl, because he put up a screenshot of her in a public Facebook post. So I figure if I do enough Googling, I should be able to find out more about her. I looked her up, and I don't want to get her doxxed or anything, so I'm gonna censor all of her personal stuff. But I very obviously meant the other girl. She's in the next frame of my video. So that's something that's been taken out of context.
She said it was cool for me to post this photo many years ago. I don't want to, like, dox or expose her identity, but I could show you photos with Portuguese lettering next to her. Like, she's on the internet. She exists out there. This particular photo's down because she took her Facebook down, but she is on Instagram and she's out there. This is easily proven to anyone who I know.
Maybe I was wrong, and they just look really similar, but I couldn't find anything on this girl either, not even related photos. If you don't want to dox her, she's not on Facebook. She's on an Instagram account that I can't find. Maybe I was wrong. And if I was wrong, and you did in fact give a rose to a girl, resulting in all the other girls standing up and clapping, the entire table erupts with cheers and applause, then this girl still deserves better than being friends with someone who got mad at themselves for not kissing her when she said not to kiss her. Okay, moving on. I said they don't seem to exist because I tried Googling their headshots and nothing came up. In another podcast, you did acknowledge that it wasn't entirely out of the realm of possibility that someone could fake their testimonials.
Yeah. Like, this service is for fake testimonials. And so this guy's been giving testimonials for software and cars and all over the internet. And it just was like, oh, wow. What it made me realize also is that every website is a lie. Unless you really, really trust the person. Yeah, I get why people think, oh, their testimonials might be fake. I didn't get it at first. It's like, of course they're not fake. We've had thousands of people. There's 5 testimonials here. But now I get it, because most testimonials, I think, are fake on the internet.
By the way, I would write a better testimonial. I would
That's
write.
nice.
I would
I
make
appreciate
it,
what you said.
It's a nice
No,
testimonial.
not what you said.
I'd make it punchier, though. I'd sex it up. I
It
know
is
how to
an
write.
Aw, man, you know someone's confident when they say they know how to do their job, and what a great, sexy job they do. In terms of doing jobs better, you mentioned you really need to trust your editor to keep you in the context you intended.
But you need to trust your editors and to understand who your editors are. You need to have a relationship with the editor who presents you with whatever sphere that you're looking at.
You also said your Instagram content creator doesn't have English as their first language.
Our Norwegian editor, by the way, makes these. He doesn't speak
He's not
native
from our culture.
English.
He's not in English.
So that's why that one caption came off suspicious. You could have just read the caption before it went up. Quality control is a hassle, but it seems silly not to do it. Also, people follow you because they want your advice on charisma. Then the content you're posting is not your advice.
Our Norwegian editor, by the way, makes these.
So when something problematic happens, oops, blame the Norwegian guy, he knows speak English.
He doesn't speak
He's not
native
from our culture.
English.
That's not very nice. Your brand is your responsibility. That's like marketing 101. Marketing, the master's degree that you have. I noticed a comment on the separate video they put up that was just their response to me. You didn't address her issue with you not providing references to psychological research papers. I don't know whether her claim is true. Ben says, we actually did answer that a few minutes later in the full podcast. I don't know why our editor didn't include that part, but I'll ask him. That video is now likely the first instance of your response that people will see. But your editor edited out one of the biggest points. It looks like you completely ignored it, and it hasn't gone unnoticed. If anything, that's the one point you should have addressed for the integrity of your business. So, do you trust your editor, or no? If you do, you might want to stop blaming him for your mistakes. That's real integrity.
I paid attention to my real life, and nobody who hated me with all this vitriol in the world on the internet said a word to me in person.
That's not true. You specifically said in this podcast that some girl called you out back when you were trying to learn to be a pickup artist.
I went off the deep end and got called out for it. I mean, had one girl just be like, you are an asshole. And it was true.
On your old site, you said you had a ton of pushback because your friends didn't want you to be a pickup artist.
For one person to be highly motivated anti is par for the course. And what you have to expect, I mean, if Martin Luther King Jr., and I'm not saying not even close, if he were alive today, he'd have so much vitriol about him on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, not even close, man. Do you remember how Martin Luther King Jr. died?
I feel I gotta make this abundantly clear. I'm not a civil rights leader. I'm not doing anything on that scale.
Just like, you're not an expert, except you are, but you're not.
Ultimately, as weird as it is, and I'm still uncomfortable with, grateful for the opportunity to grow. It exposed an area that I'm not happy to have to grow in, but I'm excited to grow in.
If you don't talk about criticism,
you and I cannot create this kind of a space for any sort of negative thing that is said about our business.
then how do you grow? I would have respect for you if you did. I would respect if you acknowledge that negativity can have merit, and some of it is worth listening to. You said it best yourself.
Now, this doesn't mean you ignore other people completely to the point of becoming a self-absorbed jerk.
But then you immediately excuse that by saying,
But just remember, there are 7 billion people with 7 billion different opinions. You cannot please them all.
so how many people should you just ignore before you actually make a change? The scenario that's happening right now where I'm asking you to prove things has happened to you assumedly many times before, years ago, when you first started your business based off a book that also didn't have any sources for its claims.
And I would get into arguments with people about whether or not it could work, about whether or not Tim Ferriss was just making shit up, if he'd actually done it, if the case studies were real. And I debated for hours and hours and hours. And at the end of it, we never agreed because I hadn't proved anything.
I think confidence comes from the ability to take criticism into account and act on it. If you only ever boost your ego, that shows insecurity. That ego is all you have. If you can't take criticism, that's not confident or charismatic behavior, and I don't mean you took it too personally. You think any remarks are strictly negative and not worth listening to. It's immature and narcissistic. If we're going off your definition of narcissism, that means...
So first off, a large motivator for these types of personalities is having the world view them in a way that strokes their ego. They are hyper-driven to maintain the persona that they have constructed. So keep an eye out for people with an intense focus on their image. What it made me keenly, undeniably aware of is how concerned I am with literally what a stranger who has never met me thinks and says about me to other strangers. That I care. A major tip-off that you're dealing with a dangerous personality is that in an attempt to maintain their persona, they will lie about seemingly ridiculous things. Maybe they tell fantastic stories about their own life that never happened. In the event that you do raise your issues with this type of person, they are very likely to dismiss you and throw you off in one of two ways. Typically, they will label you a hater and cut you out, as Elizabeth Holmes and her boyfriend did when subordinates raised issues.
We saw this verbatim earlier.
And the idea is that you're making the person uncomfortable.
But nobody had any issue with any of the original stuff. This person hates me, just hates me. This person decided that they hated me. Or, if you're more powerful, they'll assuage your concerns by appealing to some kind of conspiracy against them. I have no idea what's going on in her life. I have no idea
what triggered
we know
this?
each other.
Yeah.
What triggered this?
This person decided they didn't like you and then decided to make a video.
Well, not decided.
That would make other people
Something
not like
happened that
Yes,
they didn't
yes,
like me.
yes.
Something
Sorry.
happened. Another thing you tend to notice about this type is that they often don't give up on the lie. And these people are often very disconnected from the feelings of guilt or shame that would discourage other people from this fraudulent and damaging behavior. In my experience, it is more often the case that someone is trying to con you. If you want to learn to be more charismatic and captivating without being a con man narcissist, you might want to check out our online course, Charisma University.
I'm not saying you are or aren't a narcissist, just like you're not labeling anyone in your video.
And I'm not trying to label them exactly, but they often exhibit behaviors that are consistent with narcissistic personality disorder.
But you do kinda match your own analysis of what a narcissist is. So, points I'm making. You value your personal anecdotal evidence, which you say is the scientific method, but you don't value actual scientific research. So, what's the deal with your course? Do you have evidence that it works? Or are you lying to your audience? People in the comments want to know too, not just me. If you have a solid business, why are you so scared of and hurt by some random person calling you out? You're a con man, right? Sorry, confident man. And I have a question. Do you drink? And if so, how does that make you not a cheater or a slave to alcohol? And there's another point I wanted to make. Your stance on any kind of consent is unclear to me. There are 2 instances where someone said, I don't want this to happen, to something you were doing, whether it's kissing or sex. There are instances where you thought they were testing you, and you were either angry at yourself for listening when they said no, or you assumed they meant the opposite of what they were telling you. Consent is not limited to the words yes or no, and understanding that is so fundamental to healthy, clear communication, and extremely important for people who are just figuring out their social skills. As a person of confidence who has apparently done tons of research, ideally you would start with the basics for someone who doesn't know anything, but you want some positivity and advice instead of criticism? Okay. Stubborn people insist that every bad habit is just part of who they are. When they're rude to waiters, part of who they are. When they hit on girls like total creepers and then laugh about it like they didn't actually want to do well, part of who they are. They say, that's just me, and I'm not gonna change who I am, as if being incompetent, rude, irrational, or just an asshole were in some way essential to their personality. But I think it's so important to take pride in changing long-held beliefs and habits. Those are the hardest to change. Where are your blind spots? What shitty, bad habit do you protect, pretending it's an essential part of your personality? I don't think you are your bad habits. So root them out, overcome them, and decide to do better. Oh wait, you said that!